But I think connecting to your resources is such a great tip, especially for this, you're in a position with this being the first week of, classes that you can kind of reach out to everyone before we get in the heat of the semester and people may be a little bit more busy or your advisor might be busy with scheduling classes, you don't have to reach out to people just when you need something. It's always nice to introduce yourself to, club members and things like that of things you might be interested in. And it makes college, especially in this current environment, a lot less daunting if you have friends, and people around you who you feel like you can ask questions to, you can get their opinions, things like that, and have them kind of sit down with you and figure it out. Because as Amber said, even though, somebody you're talking to might not know the answer immediately, you're going to give them the ability to either correct something, go back, look at it, find that information out for you. And then that's going to save you a lot of grief later on down the road. And so when you're trying to be part of the ECTC community here, there are so many different ways that you can do that. And so, if you introduce yourself to Amber at the beginning of the semester, she's going to give you all that great information about tutoring. And then you're good to go for your classes. You're like, okay, if I run into an issue, I'm going to reach out to Amber and she's going to help me out. But not only that, Amber's probably going to tell you about all these great programs that she's working on that she clued us in about at the beginning, the Essential Skills Academy, peer mentoring, all these things. So it's not just, okay, I need tutoring. I'm going to go to the tutoring lab, get tutoring and leave. Plugging into the resources, you could find a job here on campus. You could be involved in a club that, shares your passions, and then you get connected to other, groups and opportunities within those. You get, awards and different things, scholarship, resume experiences and things like that. I mean, I can't even explain all the benefits to getting plugged into, what's going on campus because, we're here to help you learn. We're here to help you pass your classes, sure. But another huge part of it is like we're here to have fun and we're here to make college memorable and to, help you when you move on and do your career and everything else. So definitely plug in. I mean, your advisors usually know of some of the clubs that are available on campus. If there isn't a club for what you want to do, they're going to let you know how to, start that. Your instructors, same thing. A lot of them share particular passions or have experiences. We were just talking to Clay Matthews earlier, and he is an instructor here on campus who recently, excuse me, published his own book of poetry. So if that's something you're interested in, you would be able to go to him if you'd introduce yourself and say, oh, I know this about you. I share that too. What tips and tricks can you give me? Whatever the case may be. There's just so many different ways to get involved, and it's going to benefit you far and above just passing your classes.
Absolutely. And I love that you even really touched on that you may have common interests with some of those people. I felt like a lot of my college professors and even just other staff members that worked in the department that I was in whenever I was in college, they quickly became like family because they really cared about whether or not you did well and you learned the material and that you reached the goals that you had originally come there for. So I think that's really important to get really, connected in some capacity with a lot of the people that are on campus. And it may be that you say, I really would love to study abroad, and you get connected with Kevin Parrott, and he could open up a lot of doors for you in that capacity. So it's really important, again, to reach out to people and all those resources and try to get clued into different things that are across campus that you can get more, just kind of tuned into and in depth with that way. Not just that you're building your network, but also that you're building your resume while you're here too, because that's going to help set you apart if you want to apply for grad school or even just if you're going directly into the workforce once you leave here.
Absolutely, and that's such a big part of it. I remember, in high school, I didn't join any clubs. I wasn't involved. That wasn't, what I wanted to do. I was just so shy. And then I got into college and I was like, are you really going to spend the next 2 years doing the exact same thing you did in high school? You don't know anybody here. You didn't, quote unquote, grow up with them or anything. Why don't you just try something? And I'll never forget, the Creative Writing Club here on campus was accepting members. And so myself and a friend from high school got involved in that. And then we were the president and vice president. And it was probably the most fun that I had in college, kind of being involved in that community. We took trips, we went to conferences, we watched shows. We held readings and open mics with people, all over. And it was just amazing, and had I not taken that leap and been like, hey, he was actually, Mick Kennedy was my instructor, and he was like, we have this club. And I was like, I want to do that. That sounds really interesting. And had I not, introduced myself, jumped on that opportunity, I would have missed out on all of that. And I was, like I said, incredibly shy, incredibly awkward. And, just being around all those people who were like, dude, me too, was really,
Right.
really great. And it was wonderful, so can't stress that enough.
And I think even going off of that, um, Lexi, what were some of the things that you came into college thinking would be one way that actually were not was not that way at all?
Well, I didn't have any kind of like notions of college. Nobody I knew went to college. I just literally anything that I knew about college was from like movies and TV or what was
Yeah.
told to me in high school, which, I remember thinking that college was going to be a lot more structured. I knew that a lot of people, like, I thought the freedom was choosing your major. I was like, oh man, that's amazing. You get to choose what you study, and then they plan everything out from you from there. And that was like 100% not the case.
Right.
I got into my major, even after I left ECTC, it was the same thing because ECTC is very different from a 4-year university, So when I
Mhm.
got to ECTC, I chose my major, and then they're like, okay, well, here's all these courses that you could take. And I was like, well, what should I take? And they're like, well, that's up to you. It depends on, what you want to do, where you want to transfer. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? I didn't look this up before I came here. And so
Right.
luckily they, I had a wonderful advisor, Miss Patty Hawkins, and she walked me through, oh, well, here's the best way to get to what you're saying that you want to do right now. But, we're going to leave you a little flexibility in case you change your mind, things like that. And so it was equal parts like, oh man, and then like, oh man, because it was very freeing and it was exciting to be like, oh, I'm the master of my own destiny. And then it was also scary because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know anything about this. I just need to make money. And so you quickly find out that, it's in your hands to make those good choices and to, seek out the people you need to talk about it. But then another thing I think was like I had this notion that again, it was going to be very much like high school and it was going to be, kind of cliquish and stuff. And college is like not that at all. I remember every single person that I've met here pretty much has been super friendly. Like everybody is just as deer in the headlights about it as you are. And so like anytime I was like, I don't understand this. Do you understand this? Somebody was always willing to be like, yeah, I'll help you. Or no, I don't know what we're going to do. Let's figure it out. And then I made a lot of lasting friendships that way was, just literally talking to people and, again, being in those communities and those clubs was really nice because, I don't think that I would have been able to really be as successful and as engaged had I not run into just random people that really made an impact, instructors or staff or faculty or whatever the case may be. And so what about you, Amber? Because again, you're first generation as well. What were some of the things that kind of surprised you when you came to college?
Well, mine are also really similar. Um, I thought that I would be um, that I would not have enough time in my schedule to sleep as much as I would prefer. I thought it would
True.
be truly that busy, and that it was just going to, take everything that I had in order to, be successful. And and there were some subject areas that came rather easily, to me, but I still had this in my mind that it was just going to be a ton of work, that there would be so many more assignments than what there actually were. So many more tests. And don't get me wrong, I had some classes that were more challenging and it still took up time. But I think I had this completely unrealistic viewpoint of what that would look like at my first semester. And I also thought it would be way more structured. Um, and so I was shocked at some of the free time that I ended up having my first semester, until I was able to get my first job. And then that did soak up more time. And, I had to be way more intentional about planning things out a little bit more in advance. But it was definitely that way. Also, socially, it is completely different than high school. Just like you said, Everybody's really open. Everyone's really friendly. And I think it is probably stemming from some of what you just talked about, as far as that everybody's in this boat together and nobody knows what they're doing, especially your first semester. I think it is geared that way, and so everybody's just here to try to figure it out in the process. The other thing that I was really surprised about my very first semester in college was that um, so many different offices handled so many different things. And so there was no, for me, there wasn't any central point in which I could go to necessarily just take care of everything, so to speak.
That's
I
very
felt like there
true.
were so many different offices that I was working through all the time and so many different people. But what that helped me with too was realizing the importance of knowing a variety of people in a variety of areas. Because I think that's what helped me be successful was, that I had one contact at the financial aid office that I made a point to always kind of reach out to, so that they knew me and they could answer all of my questions FA related. And then, I had somebody else in the School of Ag that was really kind of one of my main people there that I was always able to reach out to with any questions that I had. So, but I was shocked by that. I think I just assumed that, if you were an incoming student, there was, I don't know, first semester freshman situation that or office that helped with all of those different types of things. And I quickly realized that, there was a lot of that you had to do on your own, and you would be going to different places across campus to different offices to deal with that. And college is still set up that way, and and that's been 10 years ago whenever I entered my first semester, I guess a little over 10 years ago. But even though in some degree it's still set up that way, there's still a lot of resources on our campus, because I didn't attend a community college. I went straight into a university. But here at ECTC, you have programs like Trio SSS, where you really can kind of have a one-stop shop for a lot of different things that keeps you from having to jump around sometimes to different offices. And so I encourage students to utilize that resource and feature, because for me, initially, my first semester, that was very frustrating because I didn't realize that was how it would be. And I just realized how much time that took. So that's why I didn't initially get a job, even though I really needed one during my first a month of school, just because I realized how much time I needed to go take care of all these different things. So use the resources like Trio SSS that you have to be able to, keep from doing that if at all possible.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that kind of shocked me is how easy it was to like find a job on campus.
Yes.
Like how good it worked with my schedule, because I was full on ready to, get a retail job or get something like that and have zero time for school because they wouldn't work with my schedule and things like I was geared for that punishment. I was like, that's all it is. That's all that's available. And I'll never forget, I was signing up for my very first semester of classes, and, you know, the advisor who signed me up was like, do you want a job? And I was like, yes. And so it worked out really, really great. But that was, a really great decision on my part because it helped me, have a job to where I could work on school, but I was also making money, and I was in a network of people where I wanted to do something in that field anyway. So it really worked out great, and I think that a lot of students don't really take advantage of work study positions. I think that you view it or not like it's viewed as not a traditional job, like that's not a real job or something like that. Well, you get paid, and you show up at a specific time, just like a normal job. And so it really helps you to get yourself integrated with the college environment in a way that, you can ask people for help and for guidance, but you're also, you're making money, you're supporting yourself, but you're not doing it at the cost of your education. If you say, I have this huge exam, I need to study for it, I don't have the time today. I never had an issue, with my supervisor being like, okay, study, I want you to pass that exam. You can make up your time later. Things like that really went a long way in letting me keep my GPA as high as I could and things like that. So I think that, a lot of students really should look into work study, especially if you've never had a job before. You're not used to how that works. You're not used to going to work. things like that. That can be a really great way to kind of put your feet in the water and say, okay, here's how this is going to work. And here's how to make sure you're not overwhelmed with it in your classes, things like that.
Right, spot on. I think federal work study position is an easy segue into balancing work with college, because depending on what federal work study job you have, you may have a little bit of downtime to be able to work on some of your academics in the midst of that, which usually helps people just kind of in that transition state to be able to balance some of that those academic responsibilities along with your work responsibilities. So good point.
Absolutely. And so I think another big tip that I have for people is to kind of make the most of college. It's really hard to, encourage people to say, hey, you really need to make the most of your college experience. These are some things that you can do. But when you come to school, I was that commuter student, you come, you show up to your classes and then you leave, you're really disconnected from the college. And there were so many fun events that happened that I wish, looking back, I had gone to. There were shows and plays and events and, readings and interesting people and things that were going on. And, you know, just going to school and then coming back, I got so burned out with it so quick. Those little things in between help to take some of the stress off, and it helps you to, have fun with the people that you're having these classes with, and it helps build relationships. And so I really encourage, like make ECTC a thing, make a real go of it and join a club or start a club or get involved in different programs, because you really only get to go once, so.
Exactly. And I think even, I guess, kind of wrapping up with that is students, just keep in mind there are plenty of resources available. Just make a point to reach out for them, because we won't know that you're struggling or you need anything unless you reach out to us. So make a point to do that, and don't feel like any question you may have is a dumb question. I guarantee you we've been asked it before. So and many times at that. So make a point to to have individuals here that you feel comfortable enough with to reach out to whenever you have questions, and just to kind of get to know as individuals as well, because they can give you just some personal tips and just some personal experiences that helped them out that may prove beneficial to you as well. So be sure to use all the resources that you have here. And then if at any given point, you're in need of tutoring services, feel free to obviously reach out to me. And as long as I have a tutor in that subject area, we'll get you set up. And if not, then there's several other tutoring options on campus that we'll make a point to try to get you, set up with. So we're definitely here to help you. And there's so many things that can really help set you up for success from the very beginning. So make a point to touch base with people here on campus that can help give you that info.
Absolutely. And so thank you, Amber, for joining us today. It's been a super awesome episode. I hope it helps, our incoming freshmen and some people who are returning to campus feel more comfortable, have those tips under their belt so that when they get started right. And so tune in to the FYE Talks podcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 for more awesome content just like this. And I'm sure we'll see Amber again on our podcast here. Thank you again, and you all have a great day.